very good morning to you, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Very good morning to you, Brett. Great to be chatting to you again.
And to you as well. I missed my cue there because I was having a chat to you. I'm a bit of a naughty little DJ, aren't I? But I know that you had some staff from Dubbo Regional Council at the recent Dubbo Farmers Markets over the weekend. Now, they were talking about the Macquarie River Corridor North and South Precincts master planning. Now, I just wanted to mention, though, because the online survey is closing today, so that'll close by the end of business today, won't it?
You hit the nail on the head. So the survey closes today. Information out there if you want to get in there and have a look at that, dubbo.nsw.gov.au/Macquarie River Master Plan. But if you just go to our website, you'll be able to find it on the front page there. What we're encouraging people to do is to put in all your ideas, all your plans. There is a survey there that's asking different questions. One of the things that's interesting about this is some people have said, we don't want this or we don't want that. And that's good information, but what we really want to hear from people is what you do want. So obviously it's all well and good to say no to lots of things, but ultimately the community wants to have some plan for the north and south precincts. So let's hear from the community to see what ideas are out there.
And that the next step after this online survey, it seems that there's community design workshops. What are they all about?
Yeah, so they're workshops that really take some of those ideas that are submitted by the community and then just starts to get down to a little bit more detail. So we've got a couple of workshops there on the 11th of October, Tuesday the 11th of October. There's a workshop 1A, we're calling it, from 12 to 1 at the Victoria Park Clubhouse, and that'll be talking about the South Precinct. And then 1B will be from 1 till 2, talking about the North Precinct, and then doing those again that evening, 2A and 2B, 5:30 to 6:30 for South and 6:30 to 7:30 for North. So the idea again there is keep fleshing it out. And it's a similar process, Brett, to what we went through way back in 2012, 2013, when we came up with the original Regan Park Master Plan. Now, this is wider than Regan Park, but the original Regan Park Master Plan had lots of workshops, had lots of discussions, and basically you flesh out those ideas. So you start off with very broad picture views, and then you start to drill down and get more detailed plans until you finally come up with the master plan, which then can start to be put together.
All right. The outcomes of the September Ordinary Council meeting, you and I only get to talk every fortnight, and sometimes we sort of miss out on catching up a few things. But a couple of important things came out of that meeting, including 3D printing and net zero. Tell us about the 3D printing, because you and I have talked about this before. This is 3D printing for houses.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Matt Wright, a councillor, brought forward the idea of reserving some parcels of land for 3D printing, specifically for 3D printed houses in a land release that Council's doing next year. And that was well supported by Council, and we've had some discussions with various companies around that. One of the interesting things is that we've seen 3D printing happen overseas. I know throughout Europe there's a few places that have been 3D printed. In America there's a whole community being 3D printed. But one of the really interesting things is, at the moment, is there the regulatory framework to allow 3D printing to occur? So for our staff, let's say someone put in an application tomorrow for a 3D printed house, can we actually approve that? And so we had to investigate that part of the process as well. What our staff have found out, because no one else is doing it yet across the state, what our staff have found out is, yes, with certain regulatory requirements satisfied, we would be able to actually approve a 3D printed house. So that means that can be communicated back to all those various organisations that have contacted us to say, yes, you could go ahead. And one of the things we're doing in the short term is we've got an amenity block that needs to be replaced over in West Dubbo. So we've gone out to tender for someone to print that rather than build that. So we want to actually let the market see, or the market test out that whole concept about doing some 3D printing. Now, an amenity block is obviously much easier and simpler than a whole house, but it'll give organisations out there the chance to put in their prices, put in their specifications, and we can award a tender to one of those organisations to show off what they can do, but also, hopefully, we think, do it quicker and do it cheaper than a normal printing method.
Matt, could this be the next step to helping homelessness as well as the home crisis out here? Because, I mean, it's hard to bring people out here to start new jobs because there's no housing availability. Is that the next step, or is that like too far into the future, do you think?
No, this is exactly where the council is thinking around that, Brett, that the idea is that you could potentially have houses printed faster than normal housing. That means you can get more houses on the ground We know that we've got an issue at the moment where lots of people want to come to Dubbo, but we don't have somewhere for them to live. So that's step one, get some more housing in the market. If we can do that quicker with 3D printing, that's an advantage. And then the next step that you talked about, affordable housing, I think there's two parts to the solution to affordable housing. One is simply having more housing. At the moment, the demand is so high and the supply is not enough that it's pushing prices up. That makes it hard for everyone trying to get some affordable housing. But then the second part of that is if you can print these houses cheaper, then that means you can get potentially some more affordable housing in Dubbo. So that really solves that problem, or not solves it, but goes part way towards solving that problem as well. So it's a pretty exciting concept.
No, I would like to see this in 10 years, because I think that'll change the way that we live. Transition to zero emissions fleet. Electric vehicles are the way of the future. You do drive one, you put your own money towards that as well, and the fleet now is looking at sort of changing and becoming a little bit greener. Is this something that you pushed?
Oh, obviously, it's something that I've discussed before, but we have to have our staff make sure that any ideas that come forward from councillors are going to be good for the community, good for ratepayers of Dubbo. And so this is something that we took to our fleet manager and said, can you explore the idea of allowing staff, because we've got staff who have cars as part of their package, as many businesses do, explore the idea for having some of those staff replacement vehicles when they need to be replaced actually be replaced with electric vehicles. Now, the first thing that people say is that electric vehicles are too expensive. But one of the things that people don't take into account when they look at a cost of a vehicle is you're not just paying the purchase price, but then you're paying running costs of that vehicle over a number of years. You've got maintenance costs for that vehicle, and then you've got the resale of that vehicle. So Steve Colliver, who does an excellent job as our fleet manager, went away and talked to some industry experts, talked to some groups that are out there who do those calculations across wider industry rather than just the fleet of Dubbo Regional Council, and they came back with some really interesting numbers. And so that in the report that went to council at the last council meeting, and it's out for public exhibition at the moment, but what it showed was that you could have a purchase price of a vehicle, some cases maybe $19,000, $20,000 dearer in an EV rather than an ICE vehicle, but the total cost of ownership of that vehicle over a 4-year time frame would actually be the same or even less. So the policy at the moment really states that if the fleet manager, in conjunction with staff, want to actually explore the idea of replacing their ICE, their petrol car, with an electric vehicle, provided the cost to the community is no more going electric compared to a petrol car over a 4-year time frame, then between the general manager, the CEO, and the fleet manager, they can actually make that decision to allow staff to actually have electric vehicles. I know some staff are keen to go that way, and this will give them a policy to be allowed to do that. And again, I can't stress it more, Brett, this is not going to cost the community more money. The idea is to cost the community less money, even though people might look at the ticket price, the purchase price, and think electric vehicles are dearer. Yes, they are in the purchase price, but it's the whole total cost of ownership that we're looking at here. So I think this is fantastic. In addition to saving the community money, we also believe we're doing something good for the environment as well.
Greener and cheaper in the long run is what you're saying.
Absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. That was a very short version you gave of my longer version.
Yeah, that's it. All right. Just quickly before I let you go, I'm out of time, but you've had some glowing reviews for the Sky Castle by Studio Ennis down there at the Heritage Plaza at the Old Dubbo Jail in Macquarie Street. What's the go with this? Do you think that this could push other events to come at night time?
Well, I think there's lots of potential outcomes from this, and you're right, there have been some absolutely glowing reviews, which is fantastic. People have been loving it. I've been talking to people who are going down there at night time, taking their kids down there. It just seems like something fun and different to do. But this is part of a broader picture to really work out ways we can activate the CBD. Now, we know we've got some developers who are interested in building apartments down in the CBD, so that sounds exciting as well. When you start to look at cafes, for example, that might close in the afternoon, suddenly if there's more activity in the CBD, we've got people living in the CBD, you've got various activities, things for them to do at night time, those cafes might start to open at night time, might turn those daytime cafes into nighttime restaurants. The Picture Theatre, which we know we've got a great cinema down the main street, then that might start to have more events on, later events on at night time. So I think this is just a bit of a test, and thanks to the state government for giving us some money to actually run this test, but a bit of a test to see how we might be able to activate the CBD. And so far, the testing has shown that it's been absolutely fantastic. What other events can we have? What other things can we do? And this is all part of that whole plaza area that will be opened up permanently in front of the Old Dubbo Jail. But there are other things we might be able to do in the CBD as well. So we'll just keep looking for other innovative ways, other progressive ways to use our CBD and use it during the day and at night time.
It has been hard for small business during the pandemic. Is this one way of trying to rejuvenate that local business and the local economy, Matt?
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. And even just the markets that we have down in the CBD, the markets that we have, the farmers markets are one thing, but some of the markets we have in the CBD, again, it's another opportunity for people to come along and shop, give them an excuse to come out. We do know the data still shows that people are sometimes a bit reluctant to come out of their house. They're still a bit aware, or not scared is not the right word, but just a little bit aware of COVID and not rushing out into the CBD, not rushing out into areas where there are crowds. But if you give people reasons to come out, if you give people things to do when they come out, then obviously that helps those businesses. We've got the Dream Festival coming up as part of, or Sky Castle as part of the whole Dream Festival, but the Dream Festival and the Lantern Parade that goes along the CBD will be a really good test as well to see how many people are going to get out and about. And I would encourage people in a safe way to get out and about, because obviously we want to get back to normal, or whatever the new normal might be, as soon as possible.
All right, and it looks like it'll move to the Dubbo Dream Festival between the 13th and 23rd of October. Matt Dickerson, the Dubbo Region Mayor, thanks for your time, and we'll catch up in a fortnight, and we'll give the week off. How does that sound?
Sounds fantastic. Thanks, Brett. Chat in a fortnight.
All right, thanks very much. Matthew Dickerson there at 2 Brecky. National News Update for 8:30 next.